Hey guys, and welcome to the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report presented by Angelo Di Paola, the Coastal Connection with eXp Realty, the first podcast to bring you the local inshore, offshore, and onshore fishing report, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. I am your host, Butch Theory, here again this week, and before we jump into the reports, we've got a really cool opportunity for you. We have partnered with AFTCO, and they are offering all of our listeners 10% off AFTCO products. All you have to do to get your 10% off is text the word fishing to 314-665-1767. Again, just text the word fishing to 314-665-1767. Subscribe to our email list, and we'll send you the promo code via email. All right, folks, I'm your host, Butch Theory, and I'm joined here today with Captain Richard Rutland for a great episode of Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report. What you say, Captain Blood?
Oh, shoot. Just glad to be here, buddy. Looks like we got a great show lined up today. Talk to a lot of interesting folks. I'll get joined with Joe Baya here in a little while.
Yep.
Talk to the Florida Man. Have you ever heard about the Florida Man game that you can play with your family?
I don't think so.
I think you take your birth month, right? So I'm November, and you just type in November Florida Man in Google, and then just see whatever the heck pops up. You know what I mean? Because everything in Florida is like Florida Man. You know,
right. Yeah,
Florida man kills 13 people in blah blah blah. Or Florida man, yeah, like kind of thing. Anyway, I don't know where I got off with on that, but anyway,
it is gonna be a good show, man. We have a stretch of good weather coming up.
We do.
Fishing's been hot.
Yeah, Memorial Day weekend, snapper season's opening up. I think we're gonna talk to Captain Bobby today too about a little bit of inshore fishing. Sounds like he's got a red hot report.
Yep.
I'm gonna talk a few things with him. So looking forward to it, man. It's for me right now, just it's been a magical time. I know today I caught personally I've caught the two biggest trout I've caught, all like spring, summertime, but before, not counting winter, spring, summertime, I caught two of the biggest fish I've caught.
That's pretty strong
to date, today.
What they hit?
Slick lure croaker color. That croaker color is one of the very best additions.
I would agree with that.
The slick lure has
it's
made.
My favorite since Cool Beans. Cool Beans was my go-to. For a long time.
And Cool Bean for me, Cool Beans is right there with croaker. But man, when you get a little bit like some of this wind-driven water that we're getting right now, and you get a little bit of that kind of almost brown tint to the water, even though the water's still clear. Okay, like today, it had that kind of a little bit of brown tint to it, but I was standing in like 2.5, 3 foot of water, and I could still see my feet. Right. You know what I mean? So if I was like in some air clear, like green water, I've been throwing Cool Beans, something of that nature. But that croaker color, man, it just blends right into that water so good, man. Golly, them big fish come up and hit it. Both of them were over 24 inches. One was probably 25, 26 inches. We were waiting, so I didn't get to measure or anything. But there's some big old honkers that you could hardly hold with you couldn't barely hold them with one hand. Yep. You had to use two hands, kind of deal. It was one of them things, man. They hit it. You knew it was I knew immediately it was a good one, and missed a few more too. But man, it's a great time to be fishing right now. Even with all this thunderstorm activity we've got and whatnot, man, I just love fishing around weather. I don't know why, but you get a lot of wind.
Kind of stirs things up a little bit.
It does, and as much as we all want to be fishing like this pretty clean Destin water, like Joe Baya over there in Destin, you know what I mean? Want to be fishing this air clear water. That's, to me, that shuts the fish down over here.
Especially over here.
I would rather have a little bit of sediment, a little bit of wind driven water and whatnot that really camouflages your bait, camouflages your sound. The trout, those big trout, can't see the lure quite as good, so they just see anything and they're hitting it.
Yep.
It's just a fun time of the year,
Yep.
Offshore wise has been great. A lot of guys catching.
You can get out there.
Yep, when you can get out.
Yep.
There's been some big tunas being caught. Saw
several bluefins.
Yep,
those bunch of big yellowfins. Swordfish has been on fire.
Yep. I think your brother caught a blue marlin last week.
Yep.
And then bottom fishing wise, early summer's always great.
Them virgin wrecks. Ain't nobody been beating them up all year, especially this spring, as rough as it's been.
Luckily, Triple C and Corey Quint, got lucky a couple of years ago and won the little red snapper shootout.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like inside 15 miles. of being off the beach, and we beat guys that went like all over the damn Gulf, and we were in a bay boat, you know what I mean, beating guys in 40-foot boats.
Yeah.
And we were fishing in shallow, you know, with big live baits and stuff like that. And I think that that's what happens early part of the year, that those bigger sows want to come in and be shallow. I mean, that every time you clean one of them, they're always full of roe and whatnot. And those big fish, I feel like they like to come in shallow to spawn or something. I don't know. I'm no red snapper specialist,
Right.
but or scientist. You know, I'm good at catching them, but I'm no scientist. That's something to look forward to. You
For
know,
sure.
I mean,
Yeah, this weekend.
Yep, this weekend.
Time to get out there.
Yep, and the weather looks like it could not be any better.
Agreed. Yep, it's gonna be fun, man. Ready to get into this port. We're gonna talk to we're gonna get an important lesson from Captain Kevin Olmstead. I'm excited about that. Tell the real story of what happened there and learn some lessons on that.
Yep, I think we're gonna learn a lot from Kevin when we talk to him about do's and don'ts, and heck, at least if you do find yourself in his situation, maybe a few things to think about, you know what I mean, what to do to survive, you know. So
for sure,
man, really looking forward to that. Well, cool. We ready to get into this?
Yep, you're right, Captain Richard. We have a great Alabama saltwater fishing report lined up this week, but first, let's hear who's making the show possible. This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report is brought to you by Sportsman's Marine. Sportsman's Marine has an extensive tackle selection of anything that local anglers need for saltwater and freshwater fishing, as well as boating accessories. They have the largest selection of the slick lure in Mobile and Baldwin County. They have AFTCO, Pelagic, and Saltwater Fanatics apparel along with other local brands. Go check out their Edgewater, Wellcraft, and Vexus lines of boats. They offer engine services with 5-star Yamaha and Mercury mechanics. Also, if you're looking for a street legal electric golf cart, go check out their Atric golf carts. Sportsman's Marine on Highway 98, and they also have a downtown location next to Mr. Jean's Beans in Fairhope, Alabama. And also brought to you by Fish Bites. For more than 20 years, anglers everywhere have come to know one thing that nothing says no to: Fish Bites. We are the Fish Bites Nation, and this is your invitation. So grab some Fish Bites and get busy casting, because you can't join the nation without doing the catching. Ask for Fish Bites or Fight Club Lures, or visit fishbites.com. All right, folks, we are excited to share a message with you today that I think is going to be very eye-opening for every aspect of a boater. What I mean by that is from a beginner boater all the way to somebody as seasoned as Captain Richard Rutland or Captain Kevin Olmstead or anybody. This story is not as bad as it could have been. It's definitely a cautionary tale for all of us on the water. This past weekend, Captain Kevin Olmstead was alone on his boat fishing, and he had a little bit of an incident. He was thrown into the Mississippi Sound out of his vessel, and the boat got away from him. Kevin was turning around. He just took off his kill switch to grab his life jacket that was on the back of his leaning post, and he turned around without that kill switch on to grab his life jacket, and he was tossed into the Mississippi Sound. He was not able to grab his life preserver, so he had to tread water for about 10 hours. He had hypothermia, exhaustion, dehydration, until the Bayou Boys and the Alabama Marine Patrol found him at the last second, pretty much. He was hanging on to channel marker 34 in the intercoastal waterway after his unoccupied boat was spotted miles away near Malabatry. We are very glad to be able to have this conversation with our next guest. So I'm joined here with Captain Richard Rutland. We got Joe Baya, and welcome to the show, Captain Kevin Olmstead. How you doing today, buddy?
Hey, thanks, Butch. I appreciate you having me. Doing good. Blessed to be here.
Man, what a crazy story. I've gotten snippets here and there, and you and I talked a little bit about that this morning, and my skin's been having goosebumps all day since we talked, and kind of looking forward to hearing the whole story. Just want to get a good account of what happened to you. So like I said, so it doesn't happen to anybody else, and hopefully we can get the message out on that.
Yeah, Butch. Yeah, I'd love to tell the story. First off, foremost, I need to reach out and thank everybody that was involved in the rescue of me, everybody from the personnel, Coast Guard personnel, to the guys that we call the Bayou Boys, the Bayou Bait Shop, who was the first one to call it in when they saw my boat come ashore, the Marine Police, East Side, West Side, all the captain charters, anybody there was guys just at the house that just were running. Phones, it's just amazing. I have to thank everyone that put their lives in danger to try to rescue me. I'm beyond grateful.
Yeah, man, we're definitely glad that you can tell the story. And I think that's one way you can use this platform, use this experience to give everybody an account of how fast these kind of things can happen. And they can happen to absolutely anybody, regardless of experience. So just tell us what happened, man, in your words.
Yeah, it's always one of those things. Well, it's never going to happen to me, but that mentality is the wrong mentality. But yeah, it started off I was on the west end of Dolphin Island. Started, about 10 o'clock, 9:50 or something. It was just really getting bad, and I just decided to pack up and head back towards West Fowl. And so I got in the boat, took off. I'm a stickler with my kill switch, had it on. My life jacket was on the back of the seat. I took off, and I may have gotten 2 or 3 miles out into the sound, and it was just really, really rough. And so I slowed down. Thought I put the when I make a mistake, I'm gonna own up to it. I thought I got it into neutral, and I may not have, and slowed the boat down, unhooked my kill switch from my pants, and turned around to grab the life jacket. When I turned around to grab it, may have one foot outside the console, and a wave hit the side of the boat, threw me in. When I came up, of course, opened my eyes, and I'm almost just, and the boat's sliding across my forehead. And when I, realized what was going on, I saw it go by, and I reached out with a finger or hand, and I got one index finger on the ladder. And as it pulled me, it slipped off. And of course, I had wading boots on and shorts and shirt. And I tried to go after it, but I don't think Michael Phelps could have caught it. But so that's a feeling I don't think I've ever experienced. You've experienced stuff with family members and things like that happening, but that's an experience and a feeling that is beyond imaginable. Because you first all say, wow, I just put myself in a position that I'm probably not going to get out of. And so panic mode started. Panic mode, believe it or not, didn't last as long as I thought it would. I went straight from panic mode to survival mode. And survival mode consisted of, okay, what do I got to do? Reach down, unzip my wading boots, took them off, pulled my shorts off, tried to figure out if I could make some kind of life vest with my shorts. Couldn't get them tied up. Meanwhile, the waves were they were so bad, 3.5, I bet. And, I took every one of them. Every 2 seconds, one of them would go over my head, and I'd swallow salt water and try not to swallow it. But that went on all day long. So I had a Columbia shirt on. Like I said, the survival mode just kicked in, and I tied two knots in each sleeve, and somehow I got a little bit of air in it, and it was very minute. I'm talking so minute you could barely see it, but it was a bubble in each thing. And I said, well, okay, let's see if this works. And I'm 135 pounds soaking wet, so I stuck it up by my chest, and I just quit doing everything. And I sunk like you would, but something told me I didn't sink at the rate that I thought I should be sinking, and it was minute. I'm talking just barely, but it could have helped. It could have been a mind thing, but it was something I said, okay, this is what I got to go with to try to survive. So I didn't have a watch. I didn't know what time it was, but I know I probably went in at 10 o'clock, and I just went around with the waves and the tide. I knew the tide was going in. I was probably maybe 2 miles. I was thinking maybe 2 miles from the rig, and I knew the tide was going in. So it's had to have been 4 or 5 hours that my whole goal was to, of course, stay afloat, which I was. I think it allowed me to not have to kick and tread as hard, and I had to try to stay afloat. But then I had every 3-foot wave coming over me trying to drown me, and that was even almost tougher than treading, to be honest with you, because it was just like somebody sticking your head in the water, down in the water every 2 or 3 seconds, and you had to come up and take a breath and do that. So that in itself was probably one of the hardest things. So just to a timeline, just to shoot on down, I think probably 5 hours went by, and I told myself, I said, every little bit of time that went by, I said, okay. I had to kind of say, I'm here. I made it another hour. I made it another 30 minutes. I made it another 2 hours. I had to just get myself in reality and go, hey, I'm still here. You can try to do this. And man, I was talking to God. I was talking to my kids and my wife like they were just sitting right there on the couch with me, and that kind of stuff just calmed my nerves. I knew I had to have a clear head to try to make it through this, and I knew it wasn't going to be easy. And so I think that was probably 2:30ish, and I believe that I knew the tide was going to start coming out, and I knew when it started pouring out with the waves going the same direction that I was going to be in a double hurt. I was going to end up not being able to get to where I needed to get to, And I never could make it to the rig. So I knew that was going to be pretty tough. It was probably going to start taking me out towards the Gulf. So I ended up somewhere, maybe, I don't know what it was, quarter mile, half mile from the rig. And there's two pilings down there, you know, I think to the west of them. And I just focused on that number 34. What seemed like a mile, you know, from maybe 2:30 to maybe 6 o'clock. It was really tough. I had to keep swimming, and otherwise, you know, if I stopped, you know, I'd lose what I gained. And what looked like a mile turned into what looked like 3/4 of a mile, turned into like a half a mile, quarter mile, eighth of a mile. And, you know, it's starting to get kind of dark. And I could tell the hypothermia. I've never had hypothermia, but I could tell I had it because my body was really starting to shut down with the convulsions. And meanwhile, I'm still holding on to those two little pockets of air in my sleeves. And I had to put that in my crotch sometimes and cross my legs and pace myself and sit on my back and take the waves and just kind of ease my arms. And, you know, like I'm just in a pool, just on my back, just you know, to give my legs some kind of rest each, you know, whether it was 30 minutes or 45 minutes, because I knew I had to do that. Like I said, eighth of a mile turned into 600 yards, 300 yards, 200 yards. And when I got probably 20 yards from that piling, that's when I was almost giving up, man. It was insanely brutal, how exhausted I was. I just told myself, I mean, I was a drill sergeant that day to myself. I mean, I would love to have a recording of some of the stuff I said, because I beat myself up pretty bad. And I said, you cannot go down like this. You know, you keep pushing. And I did. I made it to the piling. I think I might have been on it 20 minutes before they found me at 7:30. And when I got to it, that was a challenge. That was the next challenge. Okay, yeah, you survived 9.5 hours. You got to a piling. Well, the next challenge was trying to stay on it. You know, it had barnacles, and I had to get up on the upcurrent side, and the, you know, the waves were still, you know, 2 feet going over my head and slamming me into the piling. So I had to hold the barnacles as light as I could with the palms of my hands where the rough parts of your skin are. And that was a happy moment. It sounds like it wasn't, or it sounds like it wouldn't be, but that was really a happy moment, because I knew if I could get to something stationary, that would give me my best shot for somebody to find me other than just floating around. So, you know, I'm thinking it's probably about 7:15, 7:20, and I'm just not really seeing anybody. You know, of course, it was hard with the waves. I was trying to focus on staying on it, and I saw a boat on the distance, and it looked like it had just come from the rig, and it was kind of going parallel. When it got a little past me, I said, oh my gosh, you know, it's not going to stop. It's not going to come over to this piling. And lo and behold, it turned and started coming, and I started splashing my hands and my arms, you know, my one arm that I could try to, you know, do it with. And it was my buddy Rick Tornay and Kyle Mitternite. If there's two guys that you want looking for them, I mean, the Bayou guys, they're phenomenal. They're all looking for me. You know, if there's somebody that you want looking for them, it's two savvy guys like that. And I saw Kyle up on the front jumping up and down, you know, saying he sees me. And man, I was elated. You know, when they got over there and got me in their boat, it was pretty bad. I was on the bottom, you know, wailing away, and Kyle's probably got bruises on his arms and his hands where I wouldn't let him go, and he stuck with me and went straight to the bayou with me. And I'm just so gracious, man. I had a lot of people caring about me.
Heck yeah, man. That's a touching story, man. You got me choked up.
I know we talk all the time about how cool our community is here, man.
Yeah,
that's just another testament of it.
And
right
it
there.
is, man. We're
It's phenomenal.
we're a tough bunch. Always got everybody's back, and man, glad to still have you here, Kevin.
Thanks, Richard, man. I don't get to hear you cry much, but I'm not gonna let you ever live that down, buddy. But guys, if there's two things that I want to make sure your listeners hear, and you know, I love the show, but there's not a guy out there in the world with a wife and kids that would not have done the same thing to be able to get back to them. And that is the whole reason I'm here, other than somebody like Rick and Kyle saving me at crunch time. Cause you know, they're the ones that got me through it. I mean, I wasn't going down like that. I didn't want to leave them like that. And that just determination I mean, I don't know how, I can't explain it, but that determination was what got me through and gave me superhuman, whatever you want to call it, got me through. And I can't explain it. It's amazing.
Kevin, I tell you what, man, I'm a Navy man, right? I was in the Navy and read some books, about like the USS Indianapolis and about, those guys getting sunk by a submarine, by a Japanese sub. And you hear a lot of these stories all the time. But the one thing I think is just unbelievable about what I was listening to you tell us here was really your mental toughness to be able to shake panic mode, go into survival mode, figure out, your little bit of flotation that you got out of your shirt. Captain Bobby and I were chit-chatting about it. And I guess both of us knew it about the same time. And I was like, man, that's exactly what I would have thought of is what you said. And that's 100%. I owe that to my Navy training. Cause that's when you go to boot camp, they teach you how to go in the water and how to survive in the water, and how to take your hand and throw air into your coveralls or whatever you got on, to kind of create flotation and whatnot. That's unbelievable. And like I said, I just can't even imagine the mental toughness that you had to endure and for such a long time. I mean, it's
a long time.
The other thing that really kind of caught me off guard too was the hypothermia thing. I would have never have thought about hypothermia when we have like 80-degree water right now. You know what I mean? You think 80 degrees,
but you're at 98.6, Cap. That's a long way. That's a lot different.
Yeah. But I mean, 80 degrees to me feels warm. You know what I mean? Like that's comfortable to be in the water at 80 degrees, you don't think about 80 degrees of water sucking the life out of you to where Kevin got to, so man, you just never deadgum know, and I'm sure exhaustion from swimming and all that, dehydration, drinking salt water, the whole 9 yards, man. But Kevin, I'm just so happy that
could have been a different story.
Yep, it could have been a different story, man. I thought I was going to be when I first got wind of, I was actually taking a nap on Saturday. Whenever I got the call, Scott Bannon had actually called me, and I woke up, and called him back about 6. And heck, I was headed to my boat shed to go hook up my boat, and sure enough, Eric Nelson called me and or texted me. Somebody texted me, and said, "Hey, we found him." You know what I mean? I was gonna go out there in the dark, do whatever.
What else do you do?
I would if I was in your position, I'd want anybody doing anything they could to find me. Because like you, I've got a family and got kids and a wife and a lot to live for, man. So.
Yeah, Richard, I tell you what, like I said, the survival mode, like I said, it was minute. I mean, that little bit of air, and the whole day, I kept looking at it going, okay, should I take that out and try to make more? And man, I just didn't want to roll the dice. I thought maybe what if I don't get any in there? What if I don't? So I just stuck with that. And like I said, it whether it was just all mental. I'm not a physically strong guy, I don't think, but I am mentally strong. And I knew it was going to take every bit of mental strength that day to survive if I was going to survive. And I can tell you right now, the first 10, 20, 30 minutes, I was gearing myself up to drown. I mean, I'll be honest with you. There is no way I thought I was going to make it past an hour having to tread water. Before this, you probably could put me in the pool and say, let's see how long you can tread. I would have bet money I probably wouldn't make it last an hour. But when you have something to look forward to or you're determined, I mean, it had to be the difference in how I made it. And I'm just lucky. And like I said, all the guys that came out looking for me, I mean, it's just, put their lives in harm's way to do it. I'm just so humble. I mean, I'm just terrible.
Kevin, this could have gone the other way. Is the reality of this situation is that, not only were you mentally determined, but you got lucky too. I mean, if you wouldn't have been able to get to that piling or, those guys would have just missed it. I mean, there's a lot of different things that could have gone the other direction. You being so quick to get on here and tell us your story, I really think there's a reason. There's a reason that happened. There's a reason why you wanted to get out here and tell that story. The thing that struck me about what you said, how quickly it happened. You're not a guy that's unfamiliar with boats. You're not a guy that's unfamiliar with the water and seas and what they can do. But even you, just that quick, you got put overboard. And like Richard was saying, 80-degree water temps, maybe. What if it had been 72? You know, maybe you wouldn't have been able to hold out as long. Just, I mean, when your body's done, your body's done. And how do you feel if you'd been able to get to that life vest, or if you'd have had one around your waist? Do you feel like this would be still a trying experience, or do you think that this would have been kind of like that was scary, but like I knew I was going to make it the whole time?
No, having a life jacket on, I probably would have, if I hadn't gotten picked up with a life jacket on, then I probably would have died of hypothermia. So there's a huge difference having the life jacket and not having a life jacket. Like the rescue swimmer said, he said, out of 100 people, what you just went through of 9.5 hours of treading water with hypothermia, drinking all the salt water. He said maybe one person or two, maybe two people could do it out of 100. And he told me, because I know professional guys that can't do what you just did. And he said, hey, you don't know it, but you were getting hypothermia at like noontime at 1 o'clock. You just didn't know it. It was starting. And, you know, I'm kind of like Richard said, I'm like, what, 78 degrees of water? I mean, come on, you know, it felt good at 10, 11, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. But yeah, no, to answer your question, no. If I went over with a life jacket, you know, then you're just worried about, okay, you know, you could have just relaxed. Somebody's going to find me. So my mental state would have been a whole lot better than, oh my gosh, I just fell in without a life jacket. You know, like I said, that first 20, 30 minutes, I'm preparing myself to drown.
Right.
Because, you know, your mind goes, there is no way, Kevin, you're going to last long enough for somebody to find you in these conditions, treading water.
You mentioned that you're religious about that kill switch, and this is just kind of a bad luck deal. I mean, we've all had things that like that have happened. You know, I mean, that could have happened to anybody. Even like you said, you always wear that kill switch. Thought you were out of gear, took it off for a split second to grab your life jacket. I mean, it was just bad luck. Do you
do something good?
Right. Had you filed a float plan with anybody? Like, do you feel like after talking to these guys that found you and the rescue effort that went underway, you know, do you feel like that would have made this maybe quicker or easier? I'm just trying to come away from this with, like, I think I know I'm guilty of this. Like, I've been on the water a long time. I've fished a lot. I've been on a lot of different types of boats, and I feel real comfortable out there. I feel too comfortable out there. I don't wear a life jacket when I'm fishing. I don't know if you guys do. I don't. I mean, only if there's only been a couple of situations in my life where I've donned a life jacket to be like, all right, it's getting dicey out here. And I really don't. And just hearing your story about falling in, man, you didn't have time to even grab the gunnel of the boat and get a hold of it. You just didn't have time. You know, if the kill switch had been on, that could have helped you. Life jacket had been on, that could have helped you. How do you feel about a float plan? I mean, did the guys say anything? Like, were they grid searching? Was it just blind luck that they found you? Or, you know, did they know kind of where you were and triangulate where you may have been headed?
Well, I mean, they had all that. They had all their computer programs and models and stuff. And I think it kind of put me up towards Coffee Island, which I don't think I moved more than maybe 2.5 miles from where I fell, because the tide was going in, waves were pushing against the tide. So you got a little bit of, you know, kind of neutral action there. And then the tide started going out. So no, I mean, I never floated. If this had happened up towards Dolphin Island Bridge, there's 100 things to grab on up there, but down there, man, it's desolate. But to get back to your question, no on the float plan. And I'm not even sure if that would work, because unless you said, hey, I'm gonna be back at noon, and then it's 4 o'clock and you're not back. But that is my wife asked, you know, if she said, I wonder if your buddies would like some kind of app that, hey, I'm supposed to be going here and I'm planning on being back at this time and that sort of thing. I think that's a great idea. But no, I don't think I've ever filed a float plan. And, you know, I'm not advocating for guys to wear life jackets on, you know, while they're fishing or while they're trolling motoring or something like that. But man, I can't tell you how many times I've run in the dark and run here and run there and just not worn a life jacket and just relied on that kill switch. Oh yeah, if I fall out, the kill switch is going to stop the boat and I'll be fine. Well, not if you hit your head, this, that, and the other. Man, when you're running or doing something like I was doing, you know, that life jacket. And I've had so many buddies already text me, hey, look what I just did. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep wondering about this. And look what I just did. I just ran to Bass Pro Shop and bought 3 of these. You know, sends me a picture of them. So, man, I mean, I've had tons of those, 25 or 30 of them. That's what I want to get across, because it sure changed my life. And I don't want anybody to go through that feeling of, you know, they're not going to see their kids or their wife or their mom and dad anymore.
Yeah, that's got to be like a feeling of pure hopelessness, you know what I mean, when you're in that situation. And man, only you can relate, to that. Kind of back to the float plan. Heck, I do this for a living. Do the same thing for a living. Running around Mobile Bay like I own the damn place, you know what I mean? And I wouldn't say I'm like real careless. I'm very safe in everything that I do. I feel safe doing what I do, but this has definitely opened my eyes. One thing, when it comes to a float plan, I wouldn't say that would really work for me too great inshore wise, because man, I'm all over the place. I could tell you I'm going to the west end of Dolphin Island, but who the heck knows where I'm going to end up. I do definitely do it when I go offshore. When I go offshore, I usually tell my wife, hey, because she's more concerned about it than I am. I'm real fearless, kind of like what Joe was talking about a little while ago, kind of fearless when it comes to it. But my wife will ask me, and I've gotten in the habit of saying, hey, okay, well, we're going to the southeast about 60, 80 miles. We're going to go to the Horseshoe. I give her some kind of name that's going to stick out to an area we're going offshore. Inshore, it's kind of hard to do that because conditions change and fishing changes, and you just never know where the heck you're going to end up. But the one thing, Kevin, you did, I guess, at least you had talked to a few people who kind of had an idea where you were and what you were going to do. And, Wayne Ladnier knew that you were going to be waiting on the west end, and then coming back through Westfowl to kind of shoot back across over there to Fairhope and whatnot. And that, in my opinion, man, Kevin, that's not a real crazy day going from Fairhope to the west end and back with the path that you were going to take. That to me does not seem like
reckless.
Yeah.
Right.
Or like way the heck outside. And I love fishing like bad weather days when it's going to be, i.e. raining or blowing real hard. It seems like that's when the fish want to bite, you know what I mean? So I kind of get excited to fish some of those conditions. And you and I fish those Battle of the Grubs tournaments in the wintertime when the weather's bad and stuff like that. I like the challenge of it, and heck, you might call me like a thrill seeker or something, so.
Well, just wear a life jacket.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or even just checking in, it doesn't have to be, hey, this is where I'm going to be at every hour and I'm going to be back in at this exact hour. It could just be, hey, you know what? I'm going to be going. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to be. I'm going to check in with you about noon or I'll check in with you at 9 and at noon and at 3, and that way if, hey, at 9, he didn't call me. Well, maybe his phone's dead. 12, he didn't call me. All right. Let's get on the radio and let's figure out what's going on.
The thing about my situation is, I went in at 10 and the boat didn't show up over on the rocks at Violet Battery till almost, I think, 3:30, something like that. So that golden time was like 4:10, I think. My buddy said absolutely over here on Baldwin County, just absolutely spread like wildfire. So really nobody knew, I was missing until the boat showed up. But yeah, like you said, if you had a float plan and said you're going to be back at noon and, your wife or somebody couldn't get you on the phone, well, sometimes, he might be just waiting or he's fishing or there's bad service or whatever. But no, I think a float plan is excellent, and I will definitely try to down the road. But to get back to I want to make sure I answer one of your questions. Good old buddy Rick Tornay, he's and Kyle, you said, how did they know to go, my way? Well, I think, those guys are black fishermen, and Rick said he asked Kyle if he could see that last piling that they hadn't seen, and Kyle said, no, it's getting dark. And Rick said, well, we're going to treat it just like black fishing. We ain't going to pass up any piling. And that's when
Wow.
he turned and came over, and, just to shed a little humor on the subject. That's kind of how it went down.
Them jokers were as determined as you were, man. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what it's like when you go on blackfishing, man. You have to be determined to go catch one of those jokers, and they were determined to go find you. And damn if they didn't do it, man. That's just an unbelievable story.
Yeah, I don't know. I told Rick, he said, I just had that instinct. I had that gut feeling that that's what we're going to do. And he told Kyle, he said, get your stuff together. We ain't leaving KO out there. And just, and then him, J.O. calling Rick and telling him about it. And then Rick getting, okay, so the behind the scenes guys, like my buddy Jake and Kane Roberts, all those guys were behind the scene, and they were just, their phones were getting blown up, and they're dealing with Scott Bannon, and they're dealing with the Coast Guard, and J.O.'s doing the same thing. And so it wasn't just the guys that were out in the boats. It was the guys that were on the phones for 4 hours. Hey, you got a boat, get in it and go. And there was people out there looking for me that didn't even know me.
Well, Kevin, we're gonna have to wrap this up here. One thing I kind of want to leave everybody with in regards to this is the best lesson any of us can learn is usually 9 times out of 10, you're always going to learn from your own mistake. Way better than like when you remember being a kid, and your parents just telling you this things over and over and over and over again. It goes in one ear and out the other, and if any time somebody can learn something, it's to learn something. We'll call it mistake or mishap, however you want to call it. Those are things that are muscle memory when you make your own mistake and you go forward in life, but I think, Kevin, you're coming on here and telling your story, being real open about it and doing what you're doing. I'm really hoping that this is going to make a better boating and fishing community around us here, man. We really appreciate you coming on and telling us your story, man. This is really deep and really just a miracle that we're all here still to talk about it together.
Yeah, guys, I appreciate it, Richard. Thanks, and appreciate all y'all do for me. And like I said, if you got chills from that story, go out and buy a life jacket.
That's right.
If it didn't bother you, then
wear it.
wear it. That's
it.
right. Yeah. And if you didn't get chills from the story, you don't have a soul in your body. You're having an out of body experience right now. You're probably from Theodore. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. If you didn't get chills, then don't go waste your money on a life jacket. But right. I'm living proof that you want to have one because you don't want to experience that. I never thought I would experience something like that. We all say, it's not going to happen to me. It's never going to happen to me.
Well, Keo, when you're ready to get back on the water again, man, and you want to do that again, man, I'll be glad to ride you again.
Yeah, I'll need to, Richard, because the boat's totaled.
Dang it. Yeah, I saw it, man.
Yeah, it's not good. And now, everybody asks me, how have you had that boat for 12 years? And I said, because it's my baby. I mean, that's the boat I wanted. And but I'm alive, man. That's all that counts.
Absolutely
no doubt,
agree.
Thanks for joining us, Kevin. Thanks for the story.
Yep. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, guys. Thanks, Joe, buddy. Richard. Thank you, buddy. All right. We'll see y'all.
Talk soon.
Bye.
It's a touching story, guys. I'm really thankful that we were able to hear it from Kevin.
100%.
What'd you pick up, Richard?
Kevin kind of all said it right there. The life jacket thing is such an easy thing to do, especially like with the technology that we have with inflatables and whatnot. Heck, I'm going back to my Navy days where we had we wore, I worked on the flight deck in the Navy. And we wore what you call float coat, which was the life jacket, that fell in the water. Poof, you got something. We had a dye tablet, so that if you did see some type of overhead aircraft, you could deploy your dye tablet and it'll light the water up like kind of alien green or whatever, And those little, they make little lights, little strobe lights you can hook on. They're like $15 at West Marine. As soon as they touch the water, boom, they're activated. Guys, you're talking about less than $200. You know what I mean?
Oh, who cares about the money, man?
It
just shouldn't even. It shouldn't even be a discussion. The
I
money
know.
shouldn't even be a discussion.
I'm just saying it's fairly inexpensive
with technology these days
to do something.
It just shouldn't happen.
I mean, they got the little fanny pack inflatables.
Yep.
I mean, Richard, I've seen you wearing fanny packs just in normal daily life. So.
For fun.
But seriously, if you're on a boat by yourself, and I mean, just wear a dadgum life jacket, even if it's one of these inflatables. Him having a couple of bubbles of air in his shirt is basically what saved him. It gave him the mental fortitude to fight through it. And like you said, it just wouldn't even have been a thing if he had that inflatable. You can wear that, even if you're on the boat with several people, wear it while you're running. Maybe you don't need to have it on when you're trolling, motoring around, but is it really bothering you that much? I mean,
you do when you're by yourself.
You don't have enough time to react. Everybody thinks they're going to be able to react. I'll just grab the gun, I'll grab the ladder, I'll be able to catch up to the boat, or I'll catch myself. You won't. It doesn't matter how much time you've got on the water. It doesn't matter how in shape you are. It doesn't matter. If you fall out, you do not have enough time to react. You just got to be prepared for when it happens, and hopefully it never happens. You got to be prepared for when it does.
That's right. We always kind of talk about, like around hurricane season, man, that Mother Nature rules this earth.
That's
and
right.
She absolutely does, and you get dumped into those elements, man, and it's tough to deal with. I think, heck, even in like calm water, not even dealing with what Kevin was doing, man, it would be dealing with. It would be a struggle. It'd be tough.
Well, I mean, think about it. It doesn't, like you say, it doesn't matter how calm it is. If you're checking cans for a cobia, if you're checking cans for a triple tail by yourself, especially at the mouth or anywhere around there, you know how it rips out of there. You're gone, Cap. You ain't catching back up to that boat.
Yeah, you'd be swimming for one of the ships, you know, like.
Yeah.
I hope I don't sound like I'm preaching, because I'm going to be the first person to admit that I do not wear my life jacket.
Me either.
And this is going to change that. It really is going to change that for me.
I go out on the boat a lot with my wife and my kid, and sometimes people that don't know the bow from the stern, if we're just going to the West End for a boat ride or something like that, what if you fall over and you're the sole operator? Is somebody on that boat going to be versed enough to come back and get you or get back in safely or anything? I mean, you just got to be prepared for everything. You never know.
Right.
Let me tell you a little short story. I remember I had to have only been like 8 or 9 years old. And my dad and I would go offshore fishing sometimes by ourselves, just he and I. And I remember my dad teaching me how to talk on the radio.
Oh, yeah.
About Channel 16 and how to call the Coast Guard if anything ever happened. And teaching me, like, if something ever happened to him and he fell overboard, how to pull the throttles back or whatnot. And then I remember him teaching me, maybe a couple years later, how to drive the boat and navigate. And still to this day, the lighthouse is forever my most favorite standing structure in the world.
Ingrained in your brain.
I mean, it is, because that's how my dad taught me how to get home was, pointer north, and look for the lighthouse. You see the lighthouse, you're there. And so anyway, I think that kind of goes a lot with everybody, like kind of to what you're saying about Mel and Lillian getting on there and teaching folks.
For sure.
Teaching them, I feel like my son could get on my boat and run the boat. Not as good as I could, but obviously, he could
figure it out how to get you home if you got hurt.
No, he could definitely operate it, so that's
the whole perception of it needs to change. So really, both of y'all know as well as I do that if you were to step onto a boat tomorrow and that captain handed you a life jacket, said, put it on, you'd be kind of like, I don't really need that. And
I've been on a boat my whole life. I don't need that.
Yeah. And the reality of the situation is that you probably aren't going to need it. But if you do, you're really going to need it.
Yeah, you're really going to. That's exactly right.
And man, we just need to change the perception of it's just like somehow because you got time on the water and you've been doing this a long time that you're
immune or
immune to this happening to you.
Agreed. You're not.
Great story. Y'all wear your life jackets. So I'm going to dang sure go get me one. And not just I've got them, but I'm going to get one that I can wear all the time and be comfortable in. And, I'm going to change my ways for sure.
All right, Joe, got to get the rest of our reports, man. It's good talking with you. I'm glad you got to be here with us for this.
Did I tell you how good looking you are, man? I can see you on the Zoom screen. Whoa, boy, got that hair slicked back and everything.
You see what I deal with over here?
I'm just really happy that you guys got to be with me today. It's
Butch,
it's been a pleasure for you. I know
Butch is way better looking than you, but he's here in the flesh right next to me, so I can touch him and everything.
Hey, get out of here.
I've got that filter.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I see it. I see it right there. All
right, boys. Good talking
Enjoyed
to
it, man.
you.
Keep them Florida boys straight over there.
That's right. All right, folks. That was a very informative segment, educational. I just hope you guys learned something from that. I know I definitely did.
Touching.
I'm definitely going to step up not that I was unsafe before, but you just got to think a little bit ahead, man, especially with kids and, people waiting on you back on land. You got to be smart. So you guys, please wear your life jackets, wear your kill switch cords. And so we really appreciate Captain Kevin telling his story. And take a quick minute and check out a few more of this week's great sponsors. That segment was brought to you by Killer Dock. As anglers, we put a lot of time, money, and passion into fishing, but most of us do not have a fish cleaning station that we are proud of. Many of us are suffering from dock dysfunction. A rod and table with rusty metal, this is just no good. But the dock enhancement that we've all been waiting for is finally here. Killer Dock uses marine-grade aluminum to make fabulous fish cleaning tables and stunning canopies that will keep us out of the sun. Killer Dock combines durability, function, and design to uniquely upgrade your entire dock experience. Visit killerdock.com to see more. And also brought to you by MB Ranch King. MB Ranch King hunting blinds and feeders are built to last right here in the USA. With durability and convenience in mind, MB Ranch King's maintenance-free blinds are constructed with high-grade steel and come in a variety of sizes to meet any hunter's needs. They offer high-quality, easy-to-use corn and protein feeders that can be filled with both feet on the ground. Call Kevin today for more info or a quote at 205-807-2937. MB Ranch King, built in the pursuit of perfection. All right, Cat, let's head on down and get our inshore report for the day. Let's talk to Captain Bobby Abruscato. Hashtag Marshal of the Mississippi Sound.
Oh, man, I knew you were going to read that in, man. I love it. How you doing, my buddy?
I'll tell you, you cannot believe how that is stuck. I'm getting emails now, right now, to the Marshal.
I love it, man. You're gonna be you're like the damn guy at the golf course, the marshal that rides around the golf cart. I don't think in my mind you'll ever hang up guiding, you know what I'm saying? But you'll damn sure be the one riding around, making sure everybody checking everybody, been checking
Make sure
everybody.
everybody's doing the right things.
Oh yeah.
Gotta do it right.
I can't wait for it, man. You're gonna have you like a little stouter build or something, gonna ride around and checking them on.
Following you guys around.
Yeah,
that's right.
It.
I posted a picture of me and you wading the other day. That day, me, you, and Bernie and Mr. Jim got out. The sunrise is in the background. The bridge is in the background. And I thought people comment on that. That's Bobby to your left, ain't it?
Got
that look.
Oh yeah. He got that silver mane coming
profile.
on out. Oh my God, it's unmistakable,
Styling
man.
and profile.
Hey, Richard and I were fishing a tournament a few years ago. We were fishing a beach right up kind of by the roadside. And people kept blowing the horn. I was like, how do they know it's us? He was going like, dude, you got to get a hat, man.
Exactly.
Oh man, that's it.
What you been up to? Kind of walk us through what you've been up to, kind of what you've been seeing. Sounds like summer's here. Fish are kind of everywhere. So just kind of walk us through what you've been doing.
I've been doing a little bit of everything, I'll tell you, and that's the beauty of this month. When you start getting it, in this period that we're in right now, you can do a whole bunch of things. You can wade fish, you can structure fish with bait, you can still fish out of the boat with artificial bait, voodoos and top waters if you want to do those kind of things. It's just one of those this is the time of the year that you can do all of that. And I have been doing all of that probably since we talked last. As you mentioned, I had a series of wade trips, one of them that you were with. You guys have been wading some too, but, and been successful doing all of it, and May is that kind of month. We came off the May full moon, which is, Christmas and birthday rolled up all into one for a trout fisherman. I mean, that's the time of the year that we can go and if you're around fish and doing anything just even halfway close to right, you're going to catch some fish and have the opportunity to catch some giant fish. When they start spawning on that moon, they gather up in the big schools and they're real competitive. Trout's one of the species that really, some species of fish don't bite real well when they're spawning. Trout aren't like that. When they gather up in those schools, both the females and the smaller males bite like crazy, so that's the reason it's a good time of the year to have an opportunity to catch a really big fish, as well as big numbers of fish too. And again, fishing for them the way you like to fish. If you want to sacrifice some numbers, either get in the water or throw a slick lure or top water, you can increase your size. If you want to throw some meat out there in the form of shrimp or maybe even some small croakers this time of year, you can catch big numbers. So it's just kind of whatever you want to do. And that's what I've been doing, kind of basing it a little bit on the weather, basing it on the crew that I have, and, just kind of setting up the trip to do that. The last few days it's been really windy and we fished out of the boat, kind of getting some areas that were protected. You just caught, had really just great. I mean, really, really great. Some of the best fishing that I've had in a number of years, and I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that it means that we're having a good crop of fish this year. Some of the regs that were in place are starting to really kind of blossom into, take hold where we're getting not only numbers have not been a problem. We've had no problem at all catching numbers throughout the year, but some of the numbers and the quality that I'm starting to catch now, and that a lot of, not just me, but a lot of people are catching, are hopefully starting to show up as a result of that.
Yep, for sure, man. Speaking of giant trout, I got to get out last Friday. It was blowing about 25 out of the south. We got tucked in on the beach and my dad and I got to get out. Second cast out of the boat, caught a personal best speckled trout, top water. Sun was coming up on the bridge behind me, and dude, Dad was right next to me, and just, I mean, it looked like a marlin coming out of the water on that top water, dude.
Yeah, you know what's funny?
Hey,
You know what's funny about that, man? I mean, you might be learning something now about doing this podcast. You didn't have me or Bobby holding your hand or anything, tying your lures on and everything. Yeah, you know, you started to come on along, man.
Let me tell you something else too. I bet you we can go back to the archives, because I can remember being on a podcast with Butch, and he came, and this is almost like probably a quote, and we got the archives. We can go back. I remember him going, "I have a confession to make. I'm not a very good topwater fisherman. Let me tell you something. That has changed, because I witnessed it. He put on a clinic in front of a 9-time Bassmaster Classic qualifier and a couple other. Yes, sir. He put a topwater clinic on.
Well, I'm glad to hear the story from you, because Butch didn't tell me he was acting all humble and everything after going fishing with Bernie Schultz, man. And I'm just thinking, damn, Bobby, what have you taken him like 3 or 4 times now? You know, and I'm just thinking, golly, and I don't even like bass fishing or anything, but I know a legend when you know, I mean, that's so cool, man. I'm so jealous of that.
I was just on that day, man. I had the cadence.
And Butch puts it on all of it. And I like to think, and I'm probably wrong, but I like to think I'm a half-ass decent topwater fisherman. And Butch put it on everybody's butt.
Like my dad says, every dog has its day.
Oh yeah.
I want to go. Well, you turn right around and catch a giant on, you know. So I want to go back. There is an archive somewhere that's going to say, Butch is going to say, "I have a confession to make. I'm not very good at topwater fishing."
Yep, we can definitely go back and listen to that.
No more sympathy now. You're tying your own damn lures on now. Okay.
Yeah. I tell you one thing about old Butch, man. Since all this has kind of come full circle, doing the podcast, and all of us kind of at least you and I, Butch, becoming buddies and doing some fishing together. You're one, and I do this all the time. And Bobby, you too, you know, like you start taking somebody fishing. It's funny. Some guys you take fishing, and however they come to you, they're going to stay the same. You know what I mean? They're not going to do anything different based on what you tell them or what rod you put in their hand or anything like that, you know, but then there's the others, the learners, you know what I mean? The guys who really kind of take on other thing. And Butch, you're one of them. I tell you, another one that really stands out in my mind is Reed Nelson, who was with the Sea Lab, who I did a bunch of speckled trout and redfish work with, tagging work with. Reed came to me as a PhD student down there at South with the Sea Lab and whatnot. And I wouldn't say he didn't know which end of the rod to hold. He was better than that, but But by the time he left and went to California to his first job after he graduated, he was a heck of a fisherman. You know what I mean? And
that's what it's all about, man. Learning. If you ain't learning, you're going backwards.
Man, it's so cool to see stuff like that, you know. All right. Well, anyway, getting back to hold
on.
All right.
That trout was 28 inches. So.
Oh man. God,
that's my God.
Yeah.
Out of top water, in the water.
Oh yeah.
And my dad
oh my God.
And my dad netted her.
Oh yeah. Butch and I were talking about it before it kind of came on here a minute ago. And I always know when it's like a really, really big fish. And Bobby, you can attest to this. And it's like one of those ones where you're screwing around with them in the water, trying to kind of get them or whatever, or trying to hold them. And it's too big to get your hand around the back of their head to pick them up. And you got to use two hands. When you got to use two hands,
that was her. Yeah.
That's a real one.
Yep.
You know, that's an absolute giant, you know.
Yep.
That's what it's all about.
Yep.
So what else you been up to, Cap?
Well, man, that's been it. I'm John, I'm looking forward to, I was talking just a little while ago about how good the fishing's been. And again, I was talking about it being a kind of a prime time, but the good news with all of that though, a little bit of the moral to that whole story right there is, it tells me that the fishery is at least getting better. Felt like to me for probably in the mid-teens, 15, 16, 17, 18, there was kind of a downturn in our fishery, and I think the numbers showed that. It wasn't just, me being anecdotal and thinking like, well, my trips are slowing down and that sort of thing, because the catch reports were down, and that's the reason they changed the regulations, and, just the way it's been here this last year or the last several months tells me, again, we came through a peak period, but it kind of tells me that maybe some things are kind of coming back, and that's what I'm really excited about. I get excited. I love catching fish. Don't get me wrong. I love catching a bunch of nice fish, but, the big picture thing is what I really like is the fact that, we're catching fish on the beach. We're catching fish in the bay at the rigs. We're catching fish on structure in the sound. We're catching
big fish, small
up
fish.
Big fish, small fish, lots, so that's what I really get excited about, and that things are headed the right way, that the conservation's working, the environment's in pretty good shape. So I'm real cautiously optimistic about talking about those kind of things, but it just, again, based on the catches in the last, couple months, it tells me that hopefully things are headed back the right way, and that people can enjoy the fishing that I've had the opportunity to do for umpteen million years, as long as I've been alive, you know what I'm saying? So I hope that continues that way, but I'm really excited about it, man. I've just in the last couple months have just been really, really, really good.
Yeah, I really agree with everything you're saying there. And I really think what the state did as far as, reducing the bag, and I don't really think that the bag size was really like the creel limit that was the big kicker. I really like the slot deal.
Gotta let the big ones breathe.
Well,
man.
you got to think about it this way. You got to think about it this way too, Butch. So trout start spawning when they're about 1 year old, which is about a 12-inch fish, and they grow really fast until they get about 18 inches, and then it starts to taper off and slow down a little bit, but you got to think, the more, like moving it from 14 inches to 15 inches, that gives you more fish that are spawning because people aren't keeping them.
Oh, yeah.
People aren't keeping them. And those fish are in giant numbers that are spawning on these moons this time of year. And then protecting the oversized fish, as people like to call them, illegal. That's funny.
Right.
I always laugh. Hey, is that an illegal one right there? I'm like, oh yeah, that's illegal. We can't keep ours too big, but those are your breeder fish, those bigger ones, and they're putting out an exponential more number of eggs every time they're spawning and whatnot, and so protecting that size fish as well. And I really think that's where we're coming full circle on what Captain Bobby's talking about with
the hatchery's got to be helping.
There's that as well.
Multifaceted approach that's helping things out.
There's a lot of things that are really coming along, and and kind of what Bobcat's talking about here. It's a really special time, right now, as far as being able to go where you want and do what you want to do, fish for them how you want to fish for them. It's a lot of fun. I've been doing a lot of wading lately, a lot of like what Bobcat, what I saw him do today, do some bait fishing and just still be able to catch lots of numbers and lots of size. It's a lot of fun, and like he was kind of talking about the beach, talking about like the North Shore of Mississippi Sound, that they're just littered everywhere right now. So it's a lot of fun.
And when the weather's been right too, even in the bay with the upstate rivers kind of drying up a little bit, we're not getting that upstate. So when the weather's been right, there's been a lot of fish caught out in the bay too. And you guys know this, that bay fishery for the last couple of years has not been that great. I mean, there's some fish out there, but it's not like you could just go out to any rig you wanted to out in the bay over the last few years and be able to catch fish. And it sounds like, over the last month, that's been different.
Around,
turning around to where, and it's real evident. It's not real hard to tell when there's fish on the rigs. My brother Joey was telling me he ran out the other day. They got a little bit of a late start. Imagine that with my brother Joey, but got a little bit of a late start. And he said he made a loop through the bay. And I think he told me that like on 4 different rigs, there was a minimum of 7 or 8 boats on every rig. That'll tell you that there's some fish being caught in some of those things too. Now that's real weather sensitive, obviously too. You got to have the right weather. The last few days certainly have not been the kind of day you want to be out there, but so that's a whole nother deal. We've talked a lot about stuff down through the Sound and that sort of thing, but the bay is really turned on when the weather, and I think by the weekend that's going to straighten back up because there's going to be a front that's going to come through here and the wind's going to blow through the north. I think about starting like Friday afternoon and Saturday. So we'll get some north winds and going to level some of that off.
That's right, and it's supposed to be beautiful weather
Saturday
on
and
through,
Sunday, I
yeah,
think.
and actually
Yep.
on into next week. And
Thank goodness, we need it.
and we're about to get a lot better tidal movement as well.
So this is what I do. So we got Memorial Day holiday this weekend, and Little Billy Goat Hole is going to be open. Snapper fishing starts. So I think what I'd do is I'd plan on launching at Billy Goat Hole or Little Billy Goat Hole about 7 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. You thinking maybe? And
Perfect. Yeah, it won't be any traffic.
What do you
there.
think that would be? Yeah,
Oh,
there won't be any traffic.
You can idle around over there to the bait shop, and
That's right.
they should have plenty of bait, right?
Won't be a line at all.
Oh yeah, pull right up. Yeah. Oh my gosh! And perfect weather for all of the above. You can have, you can be able to go snapper fishing. You can be able to go trout fishing.
Be a lot of people.
Yeah, well,
be a lot of people.
Speaking of bait and stuff, you and I chit chat all the time about comparing notes and whatnot, man. How about the daggum topwater fishing lately has just been, I know that's something that's really special to you, Bobby, and I love doing it too. And Butch just caught his PB, his personal best on topwater, man. Tell us a little bit about topwater fishing for you, man. How you set your, rod and reel up, line, and then maybe a couple of your favorite lures, colors, things like that.
Well, the main thing, the big thing with me is with topwater fishing. First of all, is you got to, kind of pick the right size of the lure. I'm not big on, colors, and my favorite color is pink, and it doesn't have anything to do with the color pink attracting the fish. It's just so I can see it, So when I throw it way out there, but pink. But the big thing as far as the lure selection goes is I like a silver side. So I don't really care what color the back is too much. I don't dwell on that too much as long as it's kind of a silver side. And the other thing is I like to match the size of the lure up to the condition. So if it's calm, or you're out of the wind and it's kind of calm, I like the medium to a small size lure, where if it's big, if it's choppy, I go to a bigger, louder lure. So it's just kind of, maybe the fish can pick up on it. The only other thing is, I guess I would probably say is that, we probably talked a lot about jig fishing, slick lure fishing during the winter. And even doing, what we're doing right now, talking about wade fishing, is I like a fluorocarbon line to get the lure down just a little bit. With topwater fishing, you want to have a line that floats, which is either braid or mono, because if you try and fish topwater lures with a sinking line like fluorocarbon, it just doesn't work. The line starts to sink and it actually pulls the lure under the surface. So my topwater line is always either going to be braid, which was what Richard likes, and Butch, you were using that the other day with me. I don't know what you cut your giant on the other day, but
braid.
Braid. So I want that thing floating to keep that lure up on the surface. And I use mono on my top waters, so those are the big things. And as far as one of the other things too, I'm a big hook changer. And most of the time with the lures that you buy from the store have cheap hooks on them. You're going to get really poor hooks on there. So I'm really big about changing hooks on those lures. And I always put good quality hooks on there when I change them, but I keep them the same size. The people that make the lures actually do tank testing. And if you start messing around too much with the hook size on those lures, you'll change the action pretty bad on the lure. So I keep the hooks. In other words, if it's got a number 2 on it, I take the cheap hook off that they sell it with and put a good hook on it, but I still keep it, the same size. So if it's either a 2 or a 4, that's what I put back on there. That's pretty much it. And then, pay attention to what's going on as far as like the tempo when you're working the lure. If the fish are hitting it on the paws or right after the paws, make sure you do that. One of the things I'm bad about doing is I get so excited when I'm topwater fishing is I'll catch a fish and I immediately want to throw it back out there and I forget what I was doing. If you can remember what you were doing when you were working the lure, it really helps out because you'll learn.
That's one thing I feel like I've said on the show a zillion times. When you catch a fish,
pay attention to what you're doing. Yep.
Pay attention to what you're doing when you're doing it. You know what I mean? And topwater is definitely one of those things.
And it may change day to day.
Big time. And it's amazing. And you can go from one group of fish to the other, and it's amazing. Sometimes they want them to move the whole time. Sometimes they want it pause. Pause worked in. They hit it after the pause. So, if you can remember what happened and get over that excitement of actually catching that fish and remember to do it again. A lot of times you can kind of repeat that, over and over. The bass guys talk about that all the time, repeating the cast or repeating the retrieve.
Yep. Well, it's funny you say that, because that day that, me, you, and Bernie and Jim went, I had the cadence down right. I had that great bait. But even Jim said, "What are you doing? You're working that thing so weird." He's like, "You're not walking the dog. You have a very abnormal cadence." And I was like, "I just let this fish speak to me. I don't know." Because it was slow. It was kind of like wasn't walking. It was kind of like sliding almost. It was long.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I tell you, that's kind of what I always say topwater fishing is, man, you got to talk to them with your rod tip. You know what I mean? That's what's a lot of fun about topwater fishing,
sure.
is you're basically talking them into it with your rod tip, with how you're working it.
Come here, girl.
We kind of had a tough morning wading down on the west end of Dolphin Island this morning. And I was just kind of trying to get down there at some point. I kind of made some 2 wades in areas where I've been catching fish down there, and came up with nothing, and then I'd kind of talked myself out of the west end. I'm like, man, I'm going to make a big move. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go somewhere else to kind of just a different system, different scenery. Kind of thing. And then heck, I get up running down the beach or whatever, and I see slicks or whatever. The guys were like, "Man, you're like a dog, like squirrel, where's the squirrel at?" Right. It's kind of the same thing with topwater. You know what I mean? You gotta and I feel like I'm like real ADD on the cadence of it. You know what I mean? Like I'll kind of like twitch it real fast, like pop, 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 and like making it splash a bunch of water. And then I'll slow it down and go twitch, 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 pause. And then sometimes I'll just reel it kind of fast and skip it across the water and stop it again, and boom, they'll blow up on it, And I think like what I was kind of talking about a second ago, pay attention to what you're doing when you're doing it, and change it up a bunch. And when you're changing it up, pay attention to what you're doing when you're changing it up, And I know that's a lot to all take in and think about, but that's kind of how I do it, because kind of like what you were saying, they wanted it how you were presenting it the other day, Butch, and you just never know how it's going to be. I know, I remember Patrick Garmison talking about winning maybe the inaugural or second annual Winter Classic one year, right in front of Bobby and I. We were like second place for third place ferries for about how long? About the first 4 or 5 years of that thing, Bobby? Is that right?
Yeah, something like that. I know exactly where you're going with this. I remember it very well.
Patrick and Trevor were deadgum. They figured out something with skipping miraculous across the surface, and that's what they wanted, and they were doing everything they could to do that. You just never know with these fish. So
right.
you gotta swap it up a little bit and see what they want. You know what I mean? Once you figure it out to it, you gotta just talk them into it. That's
the fun part about it is when you do figure it out. That's the fun part about it.
Yeah.
A lot of times you're the first kid on the block with a new toy when you do figure it out.
That's right. Well, guys, going into the weekend, we had a full moon. End of last week?
Yeah, it's
we're 2 weeks behind the moon now, so you have another one here in about 2 more weeks.
So we're right in the middle.
Yeah.
So we're right in the middle.
Right.
Looking at this weekend.
Yeah, we're cycling out of the nip by the weekend, which Rich is the same way on the. It's embarrassing. People say, "Man, what's the tide doing?" I don't know.
Right.
I don't even
gotta
know.
Go.
And when Butch texted me to say, "Hey man, you ready to go on to do the?" I had to go in there and look at my tide chart to go, because I knew we want to talk a little bit about the tides. I'm going like, it's pretty embarrassing. But we have to go no matter what. It doesn't matter. The weather's the big key thing. But they bit right through the nip, So this weekend we're going to actually get some water movement. I know there's a tide change about mid-morning. So I call this the Joey Abruscato tide. This is the tide where you can leave at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning and catch the falling water. I think that's about when it starts to change to the weekends, And then like we talked earlier, I think we're going to have some really good weather this weekend. So what you can do now is just wait until the cars are parked all the way down to Cadillac Square on Dolphin Island. And that way you can have a good long walk, and you don't have to be in a big hurry to get to your boat to get out there and catch the tide change,
Just take your time.
Take your time. Either get a buddy with a golf cart to come pick you up, because that's about where it's going to be, I think.
Man, I learn something from you every day, Bobcat. I'm telling you what, man.
Well, what do
Let's
we
find
got?
some secret boat launch.
That's right.
Yeah, I got one of them.
That's right. Well, what did we miss, Captain Richard? Anything you want to add to that as far as what you've been doing and what you've been seeing? Anything to point our listeners in the right direction?
Well, I tell you, I was kind of alluding to with my day today. We had a bunch of weather and stuff come through last night, and I don't know if that's what messed them up or whatnot, but Bobcat and I kind of fished within sight of each other today. And he kind of stayed out on some deep water stuff. And I was staying up in the shallow water, and I was seeing a lot of really good signs of trout activity up in shallow water, and had some guys that wanted to wade fish. So that's what we were doing. And man, we just came up. We had 0 bites this morning until about 9 o'clock, until I kind of changed venue. And once I did that, everything really kind of came together. And I've seen that. This will be the second time I've seen this happen in the past about 7 or 8 days. And it's kind of been blowing my mind. And Bobcat and I have been kind of comparing notes back and forth. And it's almost like they're wanting to be up shallow certain times and wanting to pull off and be in that deep water at other times. And I've been on the opposite cycle of that. Well, I've been on the right cycle of it more times than I've been on the opposite cycle of it. But man, that kind of stuff blows my mind. I think Bobby might kind of maybe inspire us a little bit to maybe what's going on there.
I think it's got a lot to do this time of year about with their spawning activity in that moon. I think what when they like to get up on that beach and do that hen and she and up there on that beach around that moon. And then this is kind of, to me, I hope I'm getting in trouble about saying this, but this is kind of the time of the moon cycle where they kind of are laid back in bed right now, smoking a cigarette, going like, damn, that was good.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And when they're doing that, and that's kind of the period that they're in right now. And I think when they fall off, not that they don't bite when they're doing that, because I had evidence of it the last several trips that I've had doing some of the deep water stuff near some of the shallow water stuff, and I think that's what happens. I think that's kind of, even though they still probably are thinking about spawning and holding hands and smoking a cigarette and that sort of thing, but I think that's a lot of what's going on with that, and when they get in these major spawning peaks like they were week and a half or 2 weeks ago, there's a time where they just kind of have to back off of it, and I think that's kind of partly what goes on with it, and then it kind of levels out where you get these deals where the bite's a little bit more kind of consistent between the two, and then you go into another peak in another couple of weeks, and then the same thing will happen again around the new moon, which actually we're going to probably have here, not to the extent it does around the full, but they'll do that, and that's what I think some of that is what's going on right now, and fishing is not an all or nothing thing. It's not 100% one way or the other, but I think there's some of that going on right now. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I hear. Well, I experienced something similar the other day, earlier this week. Like on Monday, I tried to focus all on deep water in the morning, trying to get my guys on a bite in some deep water, something that was nice and easy.
I thought you were going to say you were spawning earlier this week.
Oh man.
Look, and he does that quite regularly. He's got about 3 kids running around to evidence of that.
Oh yeah. But anywho, couldn't get on any, more keeper size fish doing that. And sure enough, hit about 5 deep water spots, go hit a shallow water spot. Boom. It's just like big fish after big fish, like as fast as we can kind of put them in the boat, and then some weather blew in on us, we had to kind of get on in pretty quick or whatever. We ended up having we caught a lot of fish all day. You know what I mean? There's no
lulls.
Yeah, there's no lull in action.
The shallow water was what was
but
happening.
The shallow water, man, golly, the first place we hit in shallow waters is like, zzz, a bunch of drag peelers. And man, it's just funny how they're kind of doing this
in and out
deep water, shallow water thing, man. That's just what you got to do, is stay on the ass this time of year, and not be and be equipped to do both.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? You need to be ready to slip cork fish somewhere, wade fish somewhere, popping cork fish somewhere. I think I'm carrying I'm like Bobcat. Bobcat carries about 22 rods with him every trip he goes on. I think I've only got about rod holders for like 14 or 16, and I've got them all full right now. As many as I can get on the boat.
Well, man, I know that deep water stuff's doing pretty good too. Whenever we did decent on the trout, it kind of dried up a little early. And Dad and I got out in the bay, and I was freelining shrimp on some of those rigs and 15, 18 feet of water. And man, the redfish were on fire.
Oh, man.
We got wrecked a couple of times and landed several nice fish over, 25 inches, and the sheep's head were still there.
Better be careful catching them redfish. We got that CCA Star Tournament coming on up. I may or may not have had a hand in putting out some of those blue tags that everybody's going to be looking for, So I'm not telling. So don't ask. But man, can you imagine?
Oh man,
buying is it the Blakely Tail is a $75 ticket? Is that right?
You got to be a member of CCA, which is I think about 40-ish, and then I think the Star Tournament is 25 or 50.
Right.
But I take a $66,000 boat on $75.
Oh my goodness gracious!
You can't fish and not afford it. I mean,
no,
you can't afford not to buy one if you're fishing anyway.
No, heck no. Speaking of red fishing, maybe Bobby could back me up on this and whatnot, but seems like last year for me, I did not have a great slot redfish year. This year is I've already caught double whatever I caught last year, and we're not even barely a third of the way through the year almost, what do you think?
And not really even targeting. Yeah, not even targeting. You know what I'm saying? This stuff I'm doing, everybody's got that I'm taking is trout on the brain. So we're all in places where I wouldn't even think about targeting redfish and still catching them, So I'd like to think if I wouldn't started targeting them, it would be better. Yeah. Yeah.
That's right.
I mean, we finished, we had about an hour or so left on the trip the other day and had caught a ton of trout. And the guy said, man, I'd never caught a redfish. And I mean, dude, it was like, I said, And I said, well, let me go try this one little creek mouth right here on the way in. And we pulled in there and everybody caught, I don't know, 2 or 3 redfish each. And I actually looked like I knew what I was doing. I was like, I can just pull in here and catch. Anyway, so to your point though, it's, knock on wood, man, that's another thing. Hopefully that's going to good and it's going to continue to get better.
That's right. Awesome. All right. Well, Marshall, the Mississippi Sound, it was great catching up with you and talking with you, my friend. And man, that was a lot of fun talking about that, about the topwater stuff and some of these spawning habits of these speckled trout. And then of course, seeing what the great state of Alabama's done with the, with the fishery, looks like, man,
it's be a good summer.
It's going to be a great
heading the right way.
That's right. Kat. Like I said, we always appreciate the report. Folks want to get up with you and book a trip. What's the best way to get in contact with you?
A-Team Fishing is my website. That's all one word, A-Team Fishing. You can go to that. I can even navigate it. You can go. It's got our phone number on there and our email address. And then we're at Facebook and Instagram at A-Team Fishing too. You can check out some stuff there. I think I even have a picture of Butch on there with a big one of many big trout that he caught on top water.
That was a good day, Cap. We appreciate the report. We look forward to hearing from you next time, man. Keep whacking them. Stay safe out there.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right, man. It's always good to hear from the Marshall of the Mississippi Sound. You guys take a quick break and check out a few more of this week's great sponsors. That segment was brought to you by Dixie Supply and Baker Metalworks. Are proud to be your metal roofing headquarters for over 40 years. Save time and money by buying from the most reliable manufacturer on the Gulf Coast. Buy it today, pick it up today. They offer 20 Sherwin-Williams colors to choose from and have a 40-year warranty. Baker Metal and Dixie Supply, 2 names, same great service. With the addition of their new store in Cantonment, Florida, they now have 8 locations to serve you. Dixie Supply and Baker Metalworks, your metal roofing headquarters. And also, Bahio Sunglasses. Want to catch more fish? Experience the clearest lenses on the planet with Bahio sunglasses. Because you'll see more, you'll catch more. It's as simple as that. Try on a pair at your local retailer or check out BahioSunglasses.com to witness the magic for yourself. Bahio is an independent, sustainable, carbon-neutral sunglass company based in New Smyrna Beach, Florida. Experience the clearest lenses on the planet with Bahio sunglasses. Try on a pair at your local retailer or check out BahioSunglasses.com to see for yourself. All right, Captain Richard, to round this thing off, man, this is it's a big weekend. Not only is it Memorial Day weekend.
I think it's a little bigger than big.
You think?
It's huge.
Especially for Gulf Coast. Huge. Especially for Gulf Coast people and Alabama residents in general. Red snapper is a big thing, man. So we're going to talk to Director Scott Bannon. He's the director of the Alabama Marine Resources Division. Welcome back to the show, Director Bannon. How you doing today?
Hey guys, I'm doing awesome, and thank you guys for the opportunity to talk about our favorite fish this weekend.
That's right.
The three of us are kind of chit-chatting a little bit before we started recording here or whatever. I was going to correct you a little bit there, Butch. It's not just red snapper.
Trifecta.
We're talking about red snapper, triggerfish, and amberjack, all available in the same weekend. So you better put your big boy pants on and fill her up full of gas.
Want to tackle?
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Ready.
There's a lot to do, man.
A lot of ground to cover. Sure.
And after we've already talked to Captain Bobby here a little while ago, talking about how red hot the trout fishing is, man, golly. It almost seems like the best charter captain in the world, he could probably run offshore and catch you some red snapper, some triggerfish, some amberjack, and then on the way in, stop at a rig and slip cork you up some speckled trout, and you might even get lucky and catch a flounder.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah. I mean, not that we're wishing for the world or anything.
Let's do it. Let's hit a grand slam, bro. I'm gonna call my shot.
That's right.
You guys are have outlined, the outdoorsman's dream, I think, especially if you're into saltwater fishing. And so we're super excited about it. I think if the weather will hold out, people get an opportunity to go. A couple of things they'll need to have is, of course, their saltwater fishing license, their Gulf Free Fish endorsement, which is $10. And then this year, the federal rule is that you have to have that descending device or a venting tool. And we've been through that with the venting tool before, that some people still have those to help with the barrel trauma. And the descending device is new. It works like a champ. It takes that fish back down to the depth of where it was caught and helps that survival rate for those fish. And, there was an opportunity to get those for free from returnthemright.org. My understanding is they've given out a bunch of those, so that may not be free on there anymore. But if you go there to returnthemright.org, you can watch the training video, which is really good. It shows you how to vent that fish properly and shows you how using that descending device, how it really helps that fish to survive. And you guys have been through that, watching fish float on top of the water, and that's heartbreaking. And so this is just an effort to help prevent that.
Yep, agreed. Those things are all great things. And yes, barotrauma is definitely a real thing, especially whenever you're fishing in, deeper water for grouper, amberjack, and things like that. You're going to need something to return those fish right.
That's right. Yep.
That's correct.
Scott, tell us a little bit about the reporting side of it. I know we have the little mailboxes at the boat ramps, and then
so we don't do those anymore. We don't do the paper copy anymore. We want you to do it on the app on your phone is the preferred method, which is go to Outdoor Alabama and download the Outdoor Alabama app, either in the App Store, or you could just go online to the regular outdooralabama.com website. But the app is the easiest because the app has your fishing license in there, all your information in there, and it asks you a couple of quick questions, and it works offline. You can use it while you're offshore. You answer some questions about, how many fish you caught, how many did you discard dead. And discard dead is that fish got eaten or it was obviously dead. It's not, hey, it struggled a little bit and took off. That's a live fish. You only have to report the ones that did not survive. And then ask you for what county and whether you're a private or a charter, and whether you left from a public access, which is like a boat ramp or something like that, or a private dock. And that information is used to help account for the quota. We have a quota that's issued to us by the federal government. This year, it's going to be the same as it was the last 2 years, about 1.12 million pounds. And we monitor it with snapper check, and triggerfish and amberjack are in there. We don't get an allocation for triggerfish and amberjack, but those are two species that are vital to us here in Alabama. And we have a very vested interest in monitoring those and ensure that those numbers are accurate. We've had some concerns with the federal numbers, and these two species are very important to us. So that's why we want to include those in snapper check. And then the balance of that is when you come to the dock, if you see one of our staff wearing a light blue shirt that says Marine Resources on it, and they ask you some questions, if you have the opportunity, please take a few minutes and answer those questions, maybe let them measure a few fish, because all of that comes together in that statistical data to help monitor that quota. And if you talk to either an enforcement officer or our biological staff, that does not count as a report in snapper check. No matter what questions they ask you, please go to the app, take a couple of seconds, and answer those questions. And that's a huge benefit. Some people think, well, if I avoid giving you the information, you don't know. Well, we have to make a statistical guess at the end of the day. The more real information, the better and tighter that data is, and that is to your benefit.
Scott, that's some great information right there. I really, I'm a little bit on both sides about the app thing and not having it be able to paper thing. Cause the only reason I say that, everybody knows I'm heavily involved with the Alabama Deep Sea Fishing Rodeo, and we sell online tickets. Yet we have a lot of people who refuse to buy an online ticket. They want to buy a paper ticket, because they say they don't have a smartphone. Everybody's got a damn smartphone these days, so kind of is what it is there.
There is a method. So here's what we encourage those folks to do, because again, we all know folks that truly have the old flip phone or whatever. So what we've asked them to do is call a family member who is much more open to the use of a smartphone or is at home with a computer, and pre-plan that trip and say, hey, I'm going snapper fishing. Can you report my fish for me? We don't care which phone it goes on or which computer it's done from. Call your family member or your friend and say, hey, I'm coming back to the dock. Can you pull up the app real quick, and can you put my information in? And they'll knock it out. And that has seemed to work well for folks. The number one hardest question in Snapper Check, everybody remembers or doesn't remember, their vessel registration number. So once you put it in the first time, it's in there. But you will have to have that tidbit for your family member that's going to report for you.
Yep. And I've done Snapper Check a zillion times, and it absolutely is just a very seamless process. But anyway, I just want to, I'm going to maybe play devil's advocate a little bit here too. And I kind of want to ask about the discarded dead side of the red snapper thing. Why is that question asked? Does that get counted against the state quota, or how does that work into the equation, just for our listeners' knowledge? So I know the state has the best interest in the fishery, in my opinion, versus the federal government, so I'm just curious about that. Maybe you can enlighten us a little bit.
Sure. Dead discards are part of your quota because it's a dead fish. And so we have people that they think that, I discarded a fish, so that's a dead discard. It is not. And usually that anomaly can kind of get worked through, because we'll see some where they'll have like this extremely high number. And so we consider that to be an outlier, and we'll look at it as like they made a mistake, or sometimes we'll even contact the person and say, hey, let's talk about this. But all of the states are required to develop a discard number. And so we have to include that. The federal data includes dead discards. And so that's why we want to reduce the potential for dead discards, things like the descending device and the venting tool and proper handling techniques, because we want those fish to be returned alive. And, naturally, we all get frustrated when they say paying the tax man with the sharks or the dolphins. And about the only thing you can do for those is to move to another location, which can be a little frustrating. But yes, every state that's doing red snapper management in the Gulf of Mexico, we are all doing it at the state level. We have to account for those discards. So it is a statistical analysis of the data. That's a really big word, and pretending like I'm smart, but we do have to do that.
So that's a great point. So speaking of the statistical data, you mentioned the weather maybe being a little bit rolly this weekend offshore. Just don't go, right? Don't burn up your snapper days. Those can come back to you. Kind of walk us through that process a little bit.
So I always refer to it as, how do you want to eat your pie? Do you want to eat it all in one setting, or do you want to spread it out over a couple of meals? So if you want to eat all the pie at one time and everybody wants to go this weekend, then go. The 1,000,000 pounds is 1,000,000 pounds, whether you catch it this weekend or throughout the season. But what we want to encourage people is that's our 1,000,000 pounds. So if you don't go, then you didn't take that portion of the 1,000,000 pounds. Somebody did not backfill behind you and catch, quote, your fish, if you can see my air quotes. So if the weather is not something that you're comfortable with, if it's not within your vessel's limits, if it's not within your skill set or your comfort level, don't go. Last year we saw this early in the season. The weather was a little bit rough. People played it smart. They did not go fishing. They went on the days that worked well for them. And as the season progressed into August, once school starts, we see the effort really decline. And we fished 124 days, or had opportunities to fish 124 days last year, because people did the right thing. If the weather was bad, they didn't go. They went on another weekend. We just don't want that derby mentality. That's a dangerous mentality. You guys already did a segment on what the weather can do to folks.
Yep.
So
You don't have to go.
play it smart. You don't have to go. Those fish are still going to be there. And again, report accurately and then go on the days that work well for you. You're getting 4-day weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And it's interesting. I tell people, if the boss is grumpy with you taking off on Friday, he or she will be just as grumpy with you taking off on Monday. So go on Monday.
That's right.
And we have seen people learn to go at different times during the day instead of everybody trying to be at the boat ramp at 5 o'clock in the morning. That creates chaos, and then everybody's coming back about the same time. What we've started to see is people are learning, you know what, I'm going to get up and go when the family's ready. We're not rushed, and we'll get down there to the boat ramps, which are always congested. But when you do it like that, there's more of an ebb and flow of the traffic at the boat ramps. There's a little bit less of a stress level.
It's not like a trout bite where you got to be there at daylight.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to bite the same at 5 p.m. as they do at
will
5
bite all
a.m. That's right.
Yep. Hey, Scott, let me ask you another question. As far as the reporting goes, what are you guys seeing as far as like the percentage of people who are reporting and not reporting, and how are you calculating that? You know what I mean? Because there's
allowing for that in your data collection.
there's and you and I have talked about this in the past. I'm just kind of trying to talk through it for our listeners and whatnot. But I know there's cameras at all the boat ramps. You guys can see how many boats are actually going in the water. You can see folks' registration numbers, as they're launching, recovering and whatnot. And it's not like you can actually like use laser vision and seeing their ice chests or anything. If they kept red snapper and didn't report them or not, but
he hadn't told anybody about that yet.
You never know what we can do, Richard.
I know. Heck, I know, but I'm on your side, man. I just want to, I'm just a little curious about how that whole process goes, because I know you have to account for some of that as well. So I'm just curious.
Yeah. So the staff that you see at those ramps with, again, the light blue shirts, and they, so when they interview you and they have a discussion with you, they're going to record some information, or they may just record vessels that have red snapper that they know. They said, yes, we had red snapper, and they'll record the registration number, and then we'll compare that to the snapper check data system. And so we align the two of those. And if you came into the dock and we confirmed that you had red snapper, we may or may not know how many it was, but we said, this is a vessel that had red snapper. This is their Alabama registration number. Did they report? And it shows up in there. We compare those two numbers, and there's a window of time in which you have to report. The law says you need to make one report per vessel prior to those fish either leaving the water or the boat leaving the water. So you got to do it before you get to the ramp. Really, is the best time to do it. But we'll make those comparisons, and you develop a percentage, and it's been in the 40s to 50% range. And in most reporting systems, other than Mississippi's, which has a really good system, and there's a check in and check out, so it's different. But that's about average for those type reporting systems. And again, it's a statistical analysis, but as long as it stays pretty consistent, we're pretty comfortable with the numbers. We would love to see it be higher because it takes out some of that error that's applied in there. And don't get me too far off in how the statisticians come up with this stuff, but the more real reports and the higher that percentage is, the better the number is. And again, I know that seems counterintuitive to folks, but we work very, very hard. And our consistent estimates over the last couple of years have shown that this system does seem to work. It does compare when we've done third-party analysis of the number of vessels going and the effort that the University of South Alabama did with us. So it is a pretty fair representation. It's not perfect by any means. Mississippi has the gold star system.
So are you saying that only 40 to 50% of the anglers going out and catching red snapper are reporting?
That is correct.
Which is higher than what it was several years ago, correct?
It was. Yes, it was in the 30s at some points, but yeah, so the closer we get to 50, it's been as high as 60% at sometimes, at certain periods. And again, the enforcement officers, if they check you and you've already landed those fish, they've already made it to shore, they're going to give you a ticket. There's not a lot of arguing about that, and that comes directly from me. Not that I want them to write tickets. I want
to be accurate,
because that's what's important to everybody. So, but sometimes people need the written reminder.
That's right.
And just to remind everybody, doing what you've done, Scott, with this fishery, as far as getting what we'll call state control away from the federal system, which I mean, everybody remembers the 9 days that we got.
We want this.
Yeah. This is where we need to be with it is, in my opinion, is reporting and being honest about it and not thinking that we're dealing with the federal government
is out to get you.
Yeah, we're not dealing with the federal government. We're dealing with the state of Alabama, and we're dealing with Scott Bannon here, who's on here being as honest.
Everything we're doing.
Yeah,
I'm doing this for you. I promise. I'm doing, we just put out a bunch more artificial reefs. We've added, I think this year total, it'll be around 1,200 artificial reefs. We increased our artificial reef permit zone by 115 square miles. We're adding to that. I mean, I don't get anything out of this except a hard way to go. I'm doing this for you guys, for the anglers. I have a passion for this. I want to look as far ahead as your children's children, at least, that they don't have to go through this. They don't have to fight this battle. I want snapper fishing to be boring. I want people to say, "Oh yeah, we're going snapper fishing again," and
no big deal.
because you have the opportunity.
Well,
that's right.
Well, Scott, I feel like I know you real well over the years, and I can tell that you, like what you just said, that you have a passion for it, and you're a man. Although you're not really in a voted position by the people, you are a man of the people, and I feel like you are here for the recreational angler, the commercial angler, like for every angler there is.
And he wants what's best for the fishery as well.
No, I do. It's for you. And I will take your call. If you want to call and ask me a question, my number is out there at 251-223-1218. I will take your call. It may not be immediate, but I will return it. I will answer whatever questions I can. We may not always agree, but I will have a conversation.
That's right.
With anybody. Because
I've been on both sides of the agreeing and disagreeing with you, and you have always taken my call, as a charter captain and as a guy who puts on a tournament and whatever, you always picked up the phone and or called me back and always maintained a great relationship with the public. And man, I couldn't ask for anything more. Yeah. But hey, Director, we really appreciate you coming on here and speaking with us. And is there anything else you want to add before we finish up?
So one last plug is don't forget that June 1st starts the federal for-hire season, which is 7 days a week, and they're going to do 79 days this year, and they're going to an electronic reporting. So they want good data too. So they are actually doing what we had already started. So you can book those trips. And then I also want to say, please take the time this Memorial Day weekend to remember those that fought and died for us, to give us these opportunities to live in the greatest country in the world. And so and be safe. And go fish.
Amen, man. We really appreciate you being on. We appreciate all you're doing up there, man. And always a pleasure hearing from you. And we look forward to hearing from you next time, man. Be safe out there, especially if you get out snapper fishing.
So thanks, Scott.
Thanks, guys.
All right, guys, that wraps up another great segment. I'll take a quick minute and check out a few of this week's great sponsors. That segment was brought to you by Boater's List. Boater's List is your new reliable and fast resource designed to link everyone to everything on the water. If you own or run a boat, you know how difficult it can be to find the right company for the task at hand. Boater's List makes it easy to find the service that you are looking for. Locate anything from fuel docks to service repairs or rentals of large yachts, even down to paddle boards and all things in between. BoatersList.com will always strive to make it better on the water. And also brought to you by Hilton's Real-Time Navigator. The days of heading out and blindly looking for good fishing areas are pretty much over. Don't waste time and money on fuel searching for fish. You need the most recent, highest resolution images to not only know where to go, but where not to go. The knowledge provided by today's technology is critical when planning an offshore fishing trip. Make the choice that professional captains all over the Gulf make and choose Hilton's Real-Time Navigator. The easy-to-use interface and excellent customer service will have you on the fish every time you go. Check them out at hiltonsoffshore.com. Man, Richard, this fishing report was full of emotion and full of a lot of great fishing information. Some legends were had on the show and talked about. We covered a lot of ground.
We did, man. It was it's been a fun show. Really, like you said, been all over the daggone place.
What'd you pick up, man?
Well, what I call the meat and potatoes of the show is talking to Captain Kevin Olmstead about his experience. And I'm going to tell you what, I just kind of, when you listen to our interview there and we got towards the end of it and I was talking about, man, you have to have the mental toughness of nobody I've ever,
for sure.
That to me is just what I've been thinking a lot about throughout, since we've interviewed him, is that mental toughness to be able to say, okay, I've got to be able to use this much energy to see that channel marker over there. I'm gonna kind of swim for a little while, and I'm gonna blow up my life preserver that I made, and
let my legs rest for this amount of time.
Yeah,
Use
you
my arms, and
know,
then vice versa.
yeah. And one thing he kind of told us after the fact was that, you know, his freaking feet got stuck
In the down
from
position,
from
yeah.
dehydration. You know, I mean, like it was absolutely a miracle.
Eye-opening, man. All of us, if you don't take something away from that, you're too tough for me.
Man, and I'm gonna tell you, I do.
Especially you.
I know.
Being in the position that you're in, just like I was talking about earlier with me and Melissa and Lillian on the boat. Think about the same thing with your clients.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to put you on a spotlight and saying you should wear a full life jacket every day. Same thing. I mean, you got a couple folks from Missouri and you fall off the boat and or hit your head when you're falling off the boat. Scary, man.
Yeah.
It's real life.
Yeah. As I like to refer to them as jelly beans. What are 3 jelly beans going to do to save me? You
think they're
know,
gonna come back and get you
if that happens.
and or if you're incapacitated, be able to bring the boat home.
That's right.
Things you got to think about. Unfortunately, I don't want that to happen.
No,
I don't even want to think about that.
You can never be too careful, and
I never be too prepared. That's right.
I feel like I'm very prepared when it comes to conditions that I'm going to go out in, but you just never know for the unknown type of thing. And I can say, as far as just like it's the little things, you know what I'm saying? It was a little thing for Kevin to feel like he took the boat out of gear and take his kill switch off to go put his life jacket on to continue where he was going, and boom, in the water and done. And one thing I didn't bring up while he was on with us there,
I just got chills again.
Yeah, me too, man. One thing I didn't bring up too either. Kevin has I think it's like a 23 or 24 foot Ranger, and he's got a 300 Yamaha on there. And those 300 Yamahas have electronic shift in the throttle there. And I'm gonna tell you, Kevin kind of does guides on the side a little bit. I do it full time, all day, every day. Yep. And sometimes there's a point where I can't tell whether it's in and out of
those
gear.
electronic gears are so smooth.
That's right. It is. And that's the really nice part about the outboard. I'm just kind of in his defense here a little bit, and speaking highly of Yamaha at the same time, that it is a little tough sometimes to know,
and making people aware too.
Yep, and especially like when you're in slick calm water, you know whether you're in gear or not in gear or whatever. Right. But like when you're in rough water and you're in neutral, you're moving 3 miles an hour. You know what I'm saying? And if you're in gear, you're only moving 4 miles an hour, so you're not going that much faster in gear or out of gear. You know, but obviously that happened. Man, it's eye opening for me, and I spend a lot of time on my boat fishing for fun by myself a lot. I love fishing by myself. Like it's kind of my own little piece. At times where I get to get out there and think about things, focus on stuff and learn something. I'm always trying to learn something and whatnot. And I definitely need to be doing something different. You know, this is very eye opening for me.
Good. I think it should be.
I hope it is for a lot of other folks too. And I'm going to take my safety measures to another level.
Me too. And I hope I stick with it. I hope it's just not like a flash in the pan.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. And that's what it is. That's what it's going to be for me is to keep the discipline to
something
remember.
That's implementable and sustainable, something that you're going to stick with, like that fanny pack.
Yeah.
It's 120 degrees sometimes. We know that, but that fanny pack is not going to make a difference. I understand the shoulders and all that, you know, even with the inflatable ones, they're going to be hot as hell. I did the BP thing for a long time. We had to wear those every day and it was brutal.
Yeah.
We hated it, but it's just, you can get around that nowadays. And it's, like I said, I hope it's sustainable and not flash in the pan for me.
So we were talking about my Navy days earlier, you know, when I was on an aircraft carrier, you know, when I talked about a float coat. So a float coat was actually like a vest. Okay. And I wore a vest over a turtleneck shirt and in fatigue pants in the Middle East on the flight deck of an aircraft carrier where there's jets turned up all over the place. You want to talk about hot.
Yeah, you're basically in a giant parking lot.
I felt like I was in an oven at times. It was like it was so hot it was hard to breathe.
Oh yeah.
You know, but I wouldn't take my float coat off. You know what I mean? Like that was important to me, you know, because you got float. Shoot, you fall overboard on the aircraft carrier, man. It's just like Kevin fell overboard. I mean, you're like a little tiny spot in the water compared to that great big ocean bay. everything we got here. So
I agree. Take what you want to away from that segment, but I'm going to try and be better.
yeah,
I'm going to try and be better as a boater in general.
yeah, just to hit on a couple other things on Did You Learn? Man, really loved hearing all the information from Scott Bannon right there at the last segment, man. That was a lot of informative stuff. Felt like I kind of tried to ask him a couple of the,
Some curveballs.
yeah,
That's right.
just to ask him, man, and everything he says makes sense. And like I said, I feel like he is even though he's not an elected person, he is a man of the people. He wants to see this fishery flourish. He wants to see it sustainable.
He's done well so far, man.
He's done very well,
Yep.
and obviously had a very, very good mentor with Chris Blankenship, who's our director of conservation for the entire state now. Really a lot of good information there.
One thing that I want to say about that, and I don't even know if we hit on it super hard, was you have your people that are, I'll just go ahead and say stubborn and or a little, I don't want to say behind the times, or just are a little reluctant to put all their information out there on the interweb or the apps or whatever you want. But last year we had a really long snapper season. You know why? Snapper check.
Yep.
You had real-time data, or as accurate as you could have had data with the amount of people that were reporting, and it kept getting extended. So that is not your enemy. It's just not.
No, not at all.
It's an advocate for our.
I think it is too. 100%. That's an advocate, and the more accurate it is, it's just one of those things. You know what I mean? Like I just remember hearing, like, before we had state control, there'd be federal guys that would come down and count trucks and trailers in at the boat ramps.
Oh, I remember all of it.
And it's like, and I was sitting there thinking, like, why the heck is my truck and trailer getting counted
right
at the boat ramp when I'm catching speckled trout during snapper season? I know all the, and I'm always excited when snapper season hits, because it's like,
keeps the inshore.
It gets all the inshore guys offshore, to go catch some snapper, and
That's
I can catch some trout as fast as I can.
Got the bay and the sound to yourself.
Yeah, there's not as much traffic, so that was always exciting, but that made no sense to me. You know what I mean? And now that there's an accurate way to keep up with it, if they give us 1 million pounds, like, let's be accurate about it. You know what I mean? Because I felt like we've been on both sides of that. We've gotten shorted like way too early, like back when we were like in the 9 days, 21 days of snapper season, and then
I remember it all.
And then when we've done reporting correctly, like last year, I mean, golly, you could go snapper fishing all year, or more than half of the year last year. What did it go into? Damn near November, December, right?
Yeah. I want to say it was December.
So, I mean, if anybody's got anything to fuss about, man, you can go just take it to the damn choir, because
that's a thing of the past, I think.
It's pretty cool.
Those guys are looking out for your best interest.
I really enjoyed talking to Captain Bobby about that, about that top water fishing, and just kind of all the different things you can do right now as far as inshore fishing. I tell you, we got a bad weather day again tomorrow, and I tell you what I think I'm gonna do is kind of struggle a little bit with the trout today. We had good size, but if I've got to work for it real hard in the morning, I'm gonna go flounder fishing tomorrow, man. I'm kind of a little,
which is also pretty awesome, because you can actually do that
about
now.
That. Yeah, the flounder fishery is so cool, man. Because
I shouldn't go with you then, because I got one maybe.
Uno. I forgot about that.
Old Dylan commented on my photos the other day. He's like, Uno.
Oh no. Oh
man,
yeah.
If I could flip you off virtually, I would.
They had flounder fishing. The cool thing about flounder fishing, I was telling a guy who kind of just started guiding a couple of years ago or whatever. Man, when before I started guiding, pre-2010, that's when I started. Was my dad and I used to go fishing like every Friday, right? That Friday was our day. He was a dentist, right? No dentist works on Friday. If you're a dentist working on Friday, you're
doing something wrong.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, none of these dentists work on Friday. So anyway, we always go fishing on Friday. And I swear it didn't matter whether we were in shallow water, like doing poppet cork fishing or free lining croakers or something, or even out at the rigs slip corking. We caught a flounder at least one flounder every trip. You know what I mean? We didn't even care about catching, like going fishing for flounder back then. We were we're just enamored with trout, you know, because I think I went on my first guide trip with Captain Bobby when I was about 12 or 14 years old, you know, and got so enamored with those trout. That's all we wanted to do, you know, but we were catching them and then it went away. You know what I mean? Like almost not catching them.
I can remember Ellis Tall, the old owner of the marina.
Yeah.
I can remember him walking down the fuel dock in the afternoons with a Calcutta pole.
With a cane pole, heck
and wrecking them. That's what he had for dinner. He's like, I'm gonna get some flounder for dinner. And he'd walk down the dang pier and catch some flounder.
And then it got where it was non-existent. Now we're getting back to that. You know what I mean? Like I had a guy catch 3 flounder today fishing slick lures, all in shallow water, you know, and I don't know what the heck he was doing right and what I was doing wrong, but I had a couple of areas when we were wading this morning. I was like bumping that slick lure on the bottom, trying to catch a flounder. That jucker freaking come in there behind me. Oh my goodness, he was flounder pounder. So he got him 2 keepers, and we turned 1 to loose. So they had plenty for dinner and whatnot, man. But man, it's just a great time right now, man. There's a lot going on.
All right, guys, that wraps up another great segment. Let's take a quick break and check out a few more of this week's great sponsors. That segment was brought to you by Bucks Island. They have new pontoon boats, bass boats, bow riders, and aluminum boats for sale. They provide boat service on all kinds of boats, even if they weren't purchased from Bucks. Visit them at 4500 Highway 77 in Southside, Alabama, or give them a call at 256-442-2588. And also brought to you by National Land Realty.
If you're in the market to sell your land, check out the fastest growing, most innovative land brokerage in the country. With the largest online presence in the industry, the bottom line is when you market your land through National Land Realty, the right buyers will know your land is for sale. Contact your Emerald Coast National Land agent. That's me, Joe Baya, at jbaya@nationalland.com, or call me at 850-296-7098.
And also, test calibration. If your diesel has low power or is consuming excessive amounts of fuel, these are common signs that your turbocharger may need to be rebuilt. Don't waste your money online with the cheapest options where you get no support after the sale. Test Calibration has been selling and servicing diesel, turbochargers, and fuel injection systems since 1976. No matter if you're running a diesel in your boat, tractor, or truck, Test Calibration can help you. Contact them at 800-822-0057 or visit them online at testcalibrationdieselandturbo.com. All right, folks, that wraps up another great Alabama saltwater fishing report. Please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget to text the word fishing to 314-665-1767 to get that 10% off AFCO promo code and also to be added to our email list. And we'll send you the new show each week. You guys be safe out there. This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report has been brought to you by Photonus Defense, simply the best-in-class night vision systems ever built. Contact them at photonusdefense.com to learn more. Photonus Defense, Masters of Darkness. And also brought to you by Yactix. Yactix Real Fishing Kayak Rentals and Guide Service. Let them tailor a trip for you. Booking and more info at yactix.com. And also brought to you by United Bank. United Bank supports our farmers with financial products and services designed specifically for agribusiness. All loans subject to credit approval, equal housing opportunity lender, member FDIC.
This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report brought to you by me, Angelo DiPaola, The Coastal Connection. Find us online at thecoastalconnection.com.
And also brought to you by CCA Alabama. Catch a tagged redfish this summer and win a 2022 Nautic Star 215 bay boat with a Yamaha 150 horsepower motor and aluminum trailer package worth over $65,000 in the inaugural CCA Alabama Star Tournament. Sign up now at joincca.org/star tournament. Also brought to you by Foster Contracting, Fortified Roofing Pros. Did you know you could save up to 40% on your homeowner's insurance with a fortified roof? Learn more at fortifiedroofingpros.com or call them at 251-973-9999. And also Sam's Stop & Shop. Sam's Stop & Shop is your one-stop shop located at 27122 Canal Road in Orange Beach. Sam's has a little bit of everything, including a deli, inshore, offshore, and surf fishing tackle. Stop by and shop or call them at 251-981-4245 today. And also brought to you by AFTCO. Family owned and operated AFTCO fishing apparel and tackle are designed to handle the harshest elements and help you weather any day on the water. From cold tournament mornings to the humid summers of Florida, their products are built to handle the extreme. They are proud to hear customer stories about the 20 plus years of life cycle of their AFTCO products. Visit aftco.com. That's AFTCO.com for on the water performance gear. And also brought to you by L&M Marine. L&M Marine has something for everyone, from small hunting boats, pontoons, as well as bigger bay hybrid boats for the hardcore angler. Go visit them at 34600 Highway 59 in Stapleton, Alabama, or call 251-937-1380. And also brought to you by Admiral Shellfish. Admiral oysters are available by the dozen at Bon Secours Fisheries, Inc. in Bon Secours, Alabama. From a simple, nutrient-dense appetizer at home or a shucking party with friends, Admiral oysters will steal the show. Call 251-949-7411 for pricing and availability. Follow their adventures on Instagram at Admiral Shellfish Co. And also by Richardoni Family Dentistry. You're going to need a good dentist, so you may as well make an appointment with fellow angler Josh Richardoni. Call today to book an appointment at 251-342-6672.